Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. You guys sent in some pretty interesting excerpts this time around from Money and the Law of Attraction by Esther and Jerry Hicks.
Yeah, the Hicks work with Abraham.
Yeah, exactly. They channel this group of non-physical entities known as Abraham and give us all kinds of advice
Right.
on, well, everything.
Right.
But this time it's all about manifesting money.
Yeah. And it's fascinating how they just dive right into this idea that our financial reality, it's not, set in stone. Like we can actually shape it
Okay.
by changing how we think and feel about money.
So we're not just talking about, wishing for a bigger paycheck or winning the lottery.
No, not at all. It goes much deeper than that. The book talks about this concept of vibration.
Okay.
Which is basically the idea that everything in the universe, including our thoughts and feelings, is made up of energy, and that energy vibrates at different frequencies.
Okay, so if I'm constantly stressed about bills and feeling broke, am I like sending out these broke vibes that are actually making things worse?
Yeah, that's exactly what the book suggests.
Wow.
It's like the law of attraction is responding to your dominant vibration. So if you're vibrating at a frequency of lack,
Right.
you're more likely to attract experiences that match that vibration.
That's a little trippy. But it does make you think, like, how often are we focused on what we don't have instead of what we do want?
That's a huge part of it. And the book calls this our money story.
Our money story.
Okay. And it says that our money story plays a huge role in shaping our financial reality.
So are we replaying the same old story of like struggle and scarcity?
Yes.
Or are we actively trying to create a new one that's full of abundance?
Exactly. It all comes down to that.
But how do we rewrite that story? I mean, this whole idea that like needing money actually repels it. That just feels so counterintuitive.
I know. It does go against a lot of what we've been taught. But think about it. Needing something usually comes from a place of lack, which is a low vibration. The book encourages us to shift our focus to feeling abundant, even if our bank account doesn't quite reflect that yet.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you just decide to feel abundant when you're, struggling to make ends meet?
Well, it is a process. It's not like flipping a switch.
Yeah.
The book talks about consciously choosing to focus on the positive aspects of your finances,
Okay.
no matter how small they seem.
Yeah.
And there's this great story about Esther, one of the authors.
Yeah.
She was dealing with a really frustrating situation at a hotel. Everything was going wrong, and she was getting super stressed.
Oh, I've been there.
Right, we've all been there. So she decided to create what she called a book of positive aspects.
A book of positive aspects. Interesting.
Yeah. Instead of dwelling on all the negative stuff, she started writing down every single thing she could find to appreciate about the hotel.
Wow. Even like the little things.
Even the tiny details, like the way the light hit the curtains or the friendly smile from the front desk clerk.
So she basically shifted her focus from the problem to the solution.
Exactly. And you know what? The situation at the hotel actually started to improve. Things started flowing more smoothly. And the tension eased up.
Wow. That's amazing.
And the book says that we can use the same process, this pivoting process, they call it,
Okay.
to shift our focus from the negative to the positive in any area of life, but especially with our finances.
That's a really powerful story.
Yeah,
It really highlights how much our perspective matters.
absolutely.
Like maybe we're giving too much power to the negative aspects of our financial situation without even realizing it.
It's definitely something to think about. And that's one of the big takeaways for me from this book. It really emphasizes that we have way more control over our financial reality than we think.
Yeah, it's not about ignoring our problems or pretending they don't exist,
Well, we're not.
but it's about approaching them from a different place, from a higher vibration.
Exactly.
I wonder how our listeners are feeling about all of this. Are you starting to see how your thoughts and feelings about money might be playing a bigger role than you realize?
It's definitely a lot to take in.
Yeah.
But it's definitely worth exploring further.
Yeah, for sure. So let's continue this deep dive, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to get into some really interesting and practical techniques in the next segment.
Can't wait. I'm excited to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so stick with us.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're back, and I'm still kind of wrapping my head around this whole vibration thing.
Yeah. It's a big concept.
It is. And I'm curious about, like, the mechanics of it all. How does our energy, like, actually create change in our financial reality?
Well, the book goes into some pretty interesting detail about that.
Okay.
It talks about how our thoughts and feelings create an actual vibrational frequency
Okay.
that interacts with the universe.
Yeah.
Like, think of it like tuning into a radio station. You know, if you're tuned into a frequency of lack and scarcity, that's the kind of signal you're sending out, and you're more likely to pick up on those kinds of experiences in your life.
Okay, that makes sense.
But if you can shift your frequency to one of abundance and gratitude, then the universe will respond accordingly.
So it's about changing the channel we're tuned into. I like that analogy. But I'm still struggling a bit with this idea of shifting our vibration.
Yeah.
Especially when we're faced with real-world financial pressures.
Sure.
It feels a bit like we're being asked to ignore reality and just like think happy thoughts.
I get that.
Yeah.
It's not about denying our current circumstances or pretending that everything's perfect.
Okay.
It's more about choosing how we respond to those circumstances. Instead of getting caught up in the fear and worry, which just amplifies the negative vibration, we can choose to focus on solutions and possibilities.
So it's about taking action, but from a more empowered place.
Exactly. There's this great anecdote in the book where Jerry, the co-author, he talks about working with people who were really struggling financially.
Okay.
And he noticed that the people who were the most frantic and needy about money were often the ones who had the least success attracting it.
That's interesting. It's almost like the more you chase after something from a place of desperation, the further it runs away.
That's a great way to put it. It's like that push-pull energy.
Right.
The book suggests that when we're coming from a place of neediness, we're actually blocking the flow of abundance.
Wow. So how do we shift that? How do we find that sweet spot of like aligned action?
It starts with cultivating a feeling of abundance. Even if it feels completely out of sync with our current reality.
Okay.
The book talks about practicing gratitude for what we already have. Visualizing our desired outcomes and focusing on the positive aspects of our financial situation.
And this is where those practical techniques from the book come in, right?
Exactly.
I'm really curious about that $100 exercise.
Yeah.
And this whole idea of vibrational spending.
Okay, so the $100 exercise, it's a great way to start shifting our energy.
Okay.
It's kind of like Esther's story with the book of positive aspects. Remember that?
Yeah.
It's about shifting our focus from lack to possibility. So basically, you carry $100 with you.
Okay.
And throughout the day, you just notice all the things you could buy with it.
So even though we're not actually spending the money, we're creating that feeling of abundance?
Exactly. Just by acknowledging the possibilities.
I like that. What about vibrational spending? That sounds almost too good to be true.
I know. It does, right? But the concept is that by vividly imagining ourselves spending money with joy and freedom, we can actually shift our vibration and attract more of it into our lives.
So it's about tapping into that feeling of abundance even if we don't have it yet.
Exactly.
So instead of stressing over my bills, I should be picturing myself booking that dream vacation.
Well, maybe not booking it today.
Okay.
But allowing yourself to really feel the joy and excitement of that experience, you know? The book suggests that the universe doesn't necessarily differentiate between what's real and what's imagined when it comes to vibration.
That's pretty powerful. It's like we're sending out this blueprint for what we want to create.
Exactly. And the more we engage with those positive feelings, the more we align ourselves with that reality.
Does the book give any tips on how to make that vibrational spending more effective?
Yeah. It encourages us to be really specific in our visualizations. Instead of just vaguely wishing for more money, imagine yourself actually using the money in ways that feel good to you. Like, if you dream of traveling the world, picture yourself strolling through the streets of Paris, trying all the amazing food, meeting new people. The more vivid and emotionally engaging your visualization is, the more powerful it becomes.
It's like creating a movie in our minds.
Exactly.
It evokes those feelings of abundance and joy.
And the more we connect with those feelings, the more we align ourselves with that reality.
This brings up an interesting question, though. What about the people in our lives who aren't on the same page with this stuff? Like, what if we're surrounded by negativity or people who are struggling financially? Can we still create abundance for ourselves?
That's a really important question, and the book actually addresses it directly.
So we're back. And we've been talking about how our thoughts and feelings about money can actually shape our financial reality. But let's be real. It's easy to get sucked into all the negativity around us.
It is. There's a lot of it out there.
You know, we hear about economic downturns and people struggling financially. And it's hard not to let that affect our own mindset.
Absolutely. It's like this collective energy of fear and scarcity.
Yeah, exactly. So how do we stay aligned with abundance when it feels like the world is screaming, financial doom is right around the corner?
Well, the book offers a really empowering perspective on this. It reminds us that we are not responsible for other people's creations.
Okay.
Just because there's a lot of fear and anxiety around money doesn't mean we have to buy into it.
So we can kind of create our own reality even if everyone else is freaking out.
Exactly. We have the power to choose our own thoughts and feelings and to create our own experiences regardless of what's happening around us.
That's a really comforting thought. But how do we actually do that in a practical sense?
Well, it starts with becoming aware of our own media consumption and thought patterns.
Okay.
You know, are we constantly tuning into news channels that are filled with doom and gloom?
Yeah.
Or are we having conversations with friends and family that are dominated by worries about money?
Right, because that stuff can really bring you down.
Absolutely. So if we're noticing a lot of negativity in our environment, it's time to make a conscious effort to shift our focus.
So step one is becoming more mindful of the information we're taking in.
Right.
And the energy we're surrounding ourselves with.
Exactly. And step two is actively seeking out sources of positivity and inspiration.
Right.
Look for stories of abundance, celebrate financial wins, even small ones, and connect with people who uplift and encourage you.
It's like we're creating a positive feedback loop.
Yeah, it's like tending a garden. You know, we need to weed out the negativity and plant seeds of prosperity.
I love that analogy. But I think it's important to remember that staying positive doesn't mean ignoring real-world challenges.
Absolutely. You're right. It's not about pretending that everything is perfect.
Right.
It's about approaching those challenges from a place of empowerment rather than fear.
So instead of thinking, I'm doomed, we can ask ourselves, how can I navigate this situation in a way that aligns with my goals?
Exactly. It's about shifting from a victim mentality to a creator mentality. And remember that what-if game we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
That's a great tool for shifting our focus from worst-case scenarios to positive possibilities.
So even in the midst of like an economic downturn,
Right.
we can still ask ourselves, what if this is an opportunity for me to create something new?
Exactly. It's about looking for the silver lining in every cloud. And this ties into one of the most beautiful concepts the book presents. True abundance goes beyond just money. It's about aligning with our source energy, feeling joy in our work, and living a life that feels good.
It's about creating a life that's rich in experiences, relationships, and personal fulfillment.
Yes. And money is simply a tool that can help us achieve those things.
Right. It's not the end goal in itself.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final question to ponder.
Okay.
If you could take one step today to create more joy and abundance in your life, what would it be?
That's a great question.
Would you choose to focus on what you lack or on the infinite possibilities that await you?
The choice is yours. You are the attractor of your experience. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into money and the law of attraction.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Until next time, keep those positive vibes flowing.